So how many of you ever remember a student in your class always being disruptive, always getting on your teacher's nerves? Well, when I was in 4th grade and all those years before 4th grade, I was always that student. I was always a student to get on my teacher's nerve, to do stuff that would get me kicked out of class. And at some point, my parents were fed up with me. They were tired of me not taking my education seriously. Because the only reason I acted up in school was because I didn't care about my education. I thought school was a big waste of time and just a big game. So I would go to school and I would just play around with my friends. I would mess around in class, disrupt the class, mess around with my teacher, play games. But they wanted me to turn myself around. So they decided they would tell me their story of how they came from one country to another and hope that their story would want to change my ways of thinking and want to take my education more seriously. So my father told me, him and my mother, my dad and my mother grew up in a little town called Casas Viejas in Guatemala. And over there, they didn't have much. They had a nice life, they lived good, but when a crisis came, they didn't have that much money. And at one point, my mother was very sick. She needed to go to a hospital. But they didn't have the money to send my mom to a good hospital. So my father decided to come from Guatemala to the United States. And that was a long journey. He had to travel all through Guatemala because Casas Viejas is in a border between Guatemala and El Salvador. So he had to travel through the whole country and then travel from Mexico, the border of Mexico and Guatemala, to the United States. Once he was in the United States, he lived with family he had in LA. In LA, he would have fun with his cousins, but at the same time, he would be looking for a job. And after a year of being in Los Angeles, he had no job. And the reason he came to the United States was to have a job and help out my mother who was very sick. So, from Los Angeles, he moved to the Bay Area. Here in the Bay Area, he had 2 years, no job. He had no friends here, so what was he going to do? Well, try to live day by day without food or water and beg for money like a homeless person. Well, he had to do that to get to where he is today. So, after 2 years, he found a job, the only job he's ever had since he got a job here in the United States, which is working at Pete's Coffee Roasting Plant in Alameda. So, how does all this connect to me? How did this want to change me into being a student who takes my education more seriously? Well, I saw that my parents had no education in their country. They never had the opportunities I have here. In their country, if they would have had an education, they could have stayed in their country. My father could have afforded a good hospital in Guatemala, and my dad would have never left. But they never had the education I have here. So I realized I need to use the best of my opportunities here. I need to graduate high school and go to a good college and pursue my dreams and then help out my family in the future. Thank you.